I'm going to talk today about leveraging big ideas. So I'll give you a very brief history. I was born and grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I went to Tufts as an undergrad, but in high school I actually spent a lot of time at MIT. I kind of had a split brain characteristic in that I spent a lot of time thinking about information processing in biological neural systems. And I was fascinated by what was then called cybernetics and then became called AI. As a senior, I took a graduate seminar at Tufts that read through Feigenbaum and Feldman's Red Book and did projects. Anyway, I went on to graduate school at Rockefeller University looking at information processing neurophysiologically. Summers I spent at Project Mac with Minsky and Papert's lab and also with Jerry Letvin's lab at, doing neurophysiology. In May of '71, I typically ate lunch with the mathematicians. I had good relationships with my group, but I just felt more comfortable there. And there was a student who had been away for a couple of years teaching mathematics, and his name was Jim Baker. And he showed up at lunch one day, and we ended up talking about what we were doing. He had been working on perceptrons, and I was working on this neural phase locking based system for studying speech. And I had learned about things like that, infinite peak clipping and so forth, even as a high school student in Jerry Letvin's lab, being inspired by Licklider's work. Anyway, 5 months later, we started working together, and 5 months later, we got married. In fact, celebrated on Monday of this week. Our children were horrified to hear we had a 5-month courtship. Anyway, even before we got married, we decided we wanted to work together. And we were both interested in pattern recognition problems. And so we started thinking about different pattern recognition problems and sort of auditioning them, because we wanted to sort of have a lifetime goal. And we thought about what's now called big data, but there wasn't enough computer resource, there wasn't enough data, we gave that up. We thought about image pattern recognition, but images are in 2 or 3 dimensions. That squares or cubes any of your computations. That was too tough. So not quite by default, we ended up with speech, which is a 1-dimensional acoustic signal. And we decided, very audaciously, that what we would like to do, if we could, no guarantees, is to create a practical, unrestricted, conversational, natural language dictation system. Okay. And by the way, we put down some criteria for that. It should have at least 10,000 words or more vocabulary. It should be real time. It should be affordable. It should be easy enough to use, etc. So we sort of back of the envelope, or napkin computations, we thought about how much computation and memory we might need to do this. We were already committed to stochastic processing methodologies and mathematical optimization techniques. We decided that was the way to go. And so using Moore's law, we guesstimated it might take 25 to 40 years if it were doable. How did we get to CMU? In spring of '72, in our residential apartment at Rockefeller, we got a phone call from Alan Newell, who we knew by reputation only. And he had shared a taxi cab ride with Minsky and Papert, both of whom I knew well, and Jim had been working with perceptrons and so forth. And basically, Jim and I had worked ourselves into an area where there was no one else at Rockefeller. And working that way, anyway, Newell called us and suggested we contact this young professor, Raj Reddy. Raj invited us out to give seminar talks. That's all we were doing. And I presented on my neurally based time domain signal processing for speech, and Jim on applying hidden Markov models for speech recognition. Raj was deeply skeptical. He said, I don't think either of these things are going to work, But nonetheless, despite that, he challenged us to prove our theses. And, our theses, and, you make or break. And he gave us the most wonderful gift, the independence and the freedom and the resources such as they existed in that time frame, and the wonderful supportive community in the SIR project. So we were really working independently pretty much of everyone else, although we had regular interactions. And we transferred to CMU, and we're thrilled that we had. To optimize computing cycles, we tended to work from 5 in the evening till 9 in the morning, almost all days, or nights. And when there were other people in the terminal room at night, which there were occasionally, especially before show and tells for ARPA, one of the students would make a run at 4 a.m. in the morning to get some bread, hot bread, out of the bakery ovens that would sell it to us in Squirrel Hill. So we spent 2 years at CMU and enjoyed them, and then went on to join IBM. But we learned a lot more about management styles and mindsets from Raj that I want to focus on. His tremendous open-mindedness, the idea that we could do what we wanted to do and just be able to prove ourselves. His fearlessness in proposing all kinds of big ideas that we heard about. His ability to track the funding and to be able to execute those ideas. And what I call very canny management skills. He's a very good judge of human character and what people need and what they don't need. We discovered that late one night in the terminal room. We rarely got to see Raj, but there was another student there complaining, "Raj calls me every night to see what I've done from any part of the world." We were stunned. Anyway, but he knows how to bring out the best in people, and that's a very key skill. So he's attracted students who, could respond to these things, emulate his qualities, and become the movers and shakers, large and small. And indeed, he's made many contributions himself worldwide. But look at this group here. You are, whether you're up here speaking or sitting in the audience, you are the movers and shakers. And in projects large and small. And Raj has contributed to the influence and the success of many of you, titans in academia, government, industry. And this is testament to Raj's exponential influence on all of you. So how does, we know Raj is a force of nature. So how does he do it? He applies leverage. He can move the world, okay? And teaches others how to do that. Oh, let's see, how do we go back here? Where is it?
Up arrow.
Up arrow. We have one somewhere.
On the
Bottom right.
There should be a clicker.
Yep. Oh, no, okay, here we go. Okay, so mathematically, that's another force that we pull on. If you have a lot of people and resources whom you're supervising, you can do it with a simple explosion process on the left. You have, if you added up all those line lengths, unitary figures, you get 223 units. If instead, as on the right, you use a compound explosion where you basically deputize people to go and lead teams, you can make yourself much, much more effective. And I think Raj is superb at doing that. As graduate students, at one point he came in and said, IEEE wants to hold a symposium on speech recognition. And so in April of 1974, he did that. And, but the way that he did that is he deputized a bunch of them and said, go figure it out, go do it. And, that's how a lot of things get done. He finds people to do things and they form a team and they do them. We find this biological process, lots of places where you find that blooms, you can either get a single bloom like a daisy, or you can take something like a simple hydrangea and find that you've got branching all throughout it, so that at the end of each branches now you have a bloom. And indeed, that principle is very much in use. He uses, I don't know why this is touching, but we are going back. He knows his people, draws out the best of them, as you would if you were putting together the colors in a fireworks display. So I invite you to emulate his fine ideas and ignite your own.